All right, we are back here on Sportsline talking about the Titans' move to get rid of Mike Mularkey that last week and now today introduce Mike Vrabel as the team's new head coach, fifth Tennessee Titans coach, and he'll be the fifth coach to coach in the last 9 seasons. 4 of these hires have been made in the last 8 years, dating back to Jeff Fisher. Phone lines are open. We want to hear from you guys tonight. 737-7767 is the number. Next up is James. James, thanks for waiting for us. You are next up here on Sportsline.
Yes.
Go ahead, James.
I've got a question for you. He went to Ohio State. Eddie George went to Ohio State. Did they ever play together?
They did. They were on the same team there.
They would. You think he'll bring Eddie George in and ask him questions about the running back position?
I imagine he certainly will have his ear at some point in time. I don't have a real good feel if Eddie has any interest in ever getting into coaching or really being much of a part of the day-to-day operations of a franchise. My guess is no. He's pretty happy with all the acting and various things he's done off the field. I don't think he wants to be back in football in that regard. But, yeah, I think these are guys who know each other pretty well. And now that he's in Nashville and in Tennessee, I'm sure at some point they'll have a conversation. And if Mike Vrabel wants some tips from Eddie, I'm sure he can get them from him.
All right, I appreciate it.
Yeah, James, we appreciate it. And Mike Vrabel did say, we'll hear coming up here, he did say today that Eddie George is one of the guys that you just knew you were up against it when you went against him. He made it very clear that Eddie George was one of the toughest guys he ever competed against, college level, NFL level. He was just a tough guy to bring down, tough guy to meet in a hole, and he has the ultimate respect for what Eddie George is and means here in Tennessee, and now he gets to be a part of the franchise as well. Mike Vrabel introduced this afternoon at St. Thomas Sports Park. Controlling owner Amy Adams-Strunk to the mic first, followed by GM John Robinson to get up the new coach.
Hello, everybody. Thank y'all for being here today. We are excited to welcome Mike Vrabel, his wife Jen, and their 2 sons, Tyler and Carter, to St. Thomas Sports Park and to Nashville. Mike has come to us with the experience and vision we need to continue what we have started over the past 2 seasons. I am impressed with his goals, with his plans for his staff, and I believe he will do everything he can to bring this town a championship. We want nothing less for our fans. John and Mike have known one another for years, and I have asked John to introduce Mike to all of you today. Thank you again for being with us.
Good afternoon. 1 week ago, I stood here and spoke about moving forward, building on the foundation over the last 2 seasons. Today, we take that next step. I've watched Mike Vrabel firsthand as a player. He's one of the toughest players, one of the smartest players on those New England teams. He was a demanding teammate. He was a selfless teammate. And above all, for him, it was always about doing what is best for the team and winning. He quickly transitioned into the coaching ranks and rose through those ranks. Mike has a great presence, excellent leadership skills, excellent knowledge of the game, and I am extremely proud to be partnered with him as everyone in this organization works together as a team toward our ultimate goal of bringing a championship to this great city, this great state, and our outstanding fan base. Welcome to the Titan family, Jen, sons Tyler and Carter, and the 5th head coach in Tennessee Titans history, Mike Vrabel.
Sounds pretty good. You can clap. You can clap for your dad. Thanks, John. First, I would just like to thank Amy, Kenneth,
and the rest of your family, John, for the opportunity to sit in front of you last Thursday and share my vision with you guys about leading this team to the next level. I want to thank you. I want to thank Mr. McNair and his wife Janice and the Houston Texans for their support that they showed us and my family. They're great people. They're great owners. Lucky to have worked for them. After Amy called me Saturday, I called Mr. McNair. He was proud of me and he was happy, and he said, I'm going to root for you except for 2 times a year. So I told him I'd do the same thing. I'd like to thank Bill O'Brien for giving me the opportunity to come to the National Football League. I'd like to thank my wife, Jen, my boys, Tyler and Carter. It's not easy, you know, supporting boys that love football and dads that coach football and play football. They've been around the NFL locker room since they've been born. I'm not proud to say this, but I'm just going to tell you about my wife. She gave birth to Carter. I missed it. I was at practice. She was in Ohio. He came early. He flipped. They had to take her, and I showed up 4 hours late, you know, because I was playing football, and she was having a baby. So I love her to death. She's been through a lot, and she understands this league. She challenged me to get into the NFL after spending some time at Ohio State. I'd like to thank my parents. They raised an only child who had everything he wanted. My dad instilled toughness and a teamwork and a value of teamwork and being self-motivated. So I thank him, and I think he's proud.
Mike Vrabel today, his opening statement after Titans GM John Robinson and controlling owner Amy Adams Strunk introduced him there at the podium at St. Thomas Sports Park. He takes over this team. We'll hear more from him coming up on the program tonight. But our phone lines are still open, 737-7767. What do you think about this hire and just the moves? I mean, 10 days ago, the Titans were getting set to play the biggest game the franchise has been in a decade, maybe more than a decade, up in New England. Mike Mularkey was the head coach who got him there. Now Mike Mularkey's gone. Mike Vrabel is in, and this team is trying to take the next step. What do you think about that? 737-7767 is the number tonight. We say hello next to Ray. Ray, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Hey, wish Mike Mularkey well on his way. Wish him the best, and wish the best to the new coach coming in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are right there with you, Ray, that once you make the move, you got to be married to it if you're a Titans fan or a Titans supporter.
That's right. You got to stick with the good and the bad.
That's true. So what do you think about Mike Vrabel? Obviously, you wish him well, but what do you think about the hire?
I think it's a new, fresh look, and I think he'll do good if he keeps on.
All right.
What he says.
All right, Ray. Well, we appreciate the call tonight. Have a great one.
Thank you.
I think that's what a lot of people hope is, yeah, he doesn't have the track record necessarily that some existing head coaches might have, but he's a guy that is well respected around the league. He's a guy that has a lot of bright ideas, and he's a guy that knocked it out of the park when he met with John Robinson. He met with Amy Adams Strunk. And so you hope that a guy who's that impressive, who was that impressive as a player and has been that as impressive as an assistant coach, can walk in as a head coach and will impress your players, will put forth a good plan that gives guys confidence and puts them in the best situations to succeed. And so that's your hope, to get this Titans team from 9 wins to maybe 10 or 11, winning the division and getting those home games in the playoffs. We'll hear more from him coming up, but he made a very, very strong statement to the point that you got to win the division. And that was the Titans' goal this year. They won 5-1 division games, but they didn't ultimately win the division. They lost to the Jaguars. And not to say that this changes everything or that the Titans would have gone to Pittsburgh and won like the Jags did, and then they'd be in the AFC Championship game in New England. Not to say that that changes really the situation. But if you win the division, which they were in position to do in December, if you win the division, you get a home playoff game. Winning at home is much easier to do than winning on the road. I mean, we've even seen that with the Titans. 11 of their last 13 games, I think, that they've won at Nissan Stadium. Playing at home is a huge advantage in this league, especially in the playoffs. And so you got to try to win that division. You've got to try to have home field. And then the better your record is, the more you get home field advantage. Do the Patriots come back yesterday in the fourth quarter? Down 10, 14 minutes to go. Do they come back if that game's in Jacksonville? Or if that game's against somebody else not in New England? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe because it's Tom Brady. Maybe because it's the Patriots. But they certainly had a better chance to do it because they were at home in Foxborough. Do the Eagles, without Carson Wentz, look like they did yesterday in that game if that game's not in Philadelphia? I'm guessing not. Maybe they do. I think the Eagles are a great team. I think they've got a really good roster. I'm not a big believer in Nick Foles, but yesterday he looked great. Maybe because they were at home, in comfortable surroundings, perhaps. So that's the next step, is can you win the division? Can you get home field advantage? Mike Vrabel understands that. And then if you can do that, that's the next step to letting your team advance further in the playoffs and ultimately play for the big prize, which is, of course, winning a Super Bowl. Back to the phones we go. Let's say hello to Jeff. Jeff, good evening.
Hey, man, I appreciate you taking my call.
You bet. Thanks for the call.
Hey, listen, we talked early on in the season about, just winning the division. And, of course, the Titans didn't win the division, but they did make it into the playoffs, and they have everything to be proud of. As far as the coaching staff goes, I have all respect for Mike Mularkey, but I do think that the hire that they made with this new coach, Vrabel, I really think is a change in the right direction for the caliber of players that the Titans have. You got to get the best out of them, and I just don't think the Mularkey got the best out of them. And I think the change they made now, if they bring in the right staff, the right assistant coaches, coordinators, so forth and so on, I really think that the Titans can go out and make a run for the Super Bowl.
That's the hope for sure, Jeff, and we appreciate the call. I think Mike Mularkey probably has not gotten enough credit for the job he did to take the Titans from where they were down at the bottom, worst team in the NFL, to back-to-back 9-win seasons. But I also think that when you look at it, it was a remarkable job in year one to go from 3 wins to 9 wins. I mean, everybody on the team overperformed, essentially, in year one. So when you say Mike Mularkey didn't get the most out of his guys, in year one, I think he got absolutely every drop out of his guys to get to that point. The unfortunate thing is that sort of raised expectations, maybe to an unrealistic point. And then this season, when they didn't exceed that even more, people were frustrated. And let's be honest, when you look at the Titans this year, there were very few guys that performed at the same level or better than they did a year ago. I mean, the only 2 guys I really point to is Kevin Byard, who in his second year, going from a guy who split time in the secondary to an all-pro, clearly had an outstanding season. And Wesley Woodyard had a career year at inside linebacker. That's it. Everybody else on the team either basically was the same or probably took a step back in terms of production. You're not going to win many more games than you did the prior year if that's the case for every individual player on the team. How much do the coaches deserve the blame for that? I mean, we can debate that in terms of the schemes and what they did and adjustments and all that throughout the course of the season. But some of that blame also just falls on the players, too. So Mike Mularkey should get a ton of credit for the turnaround within the team. But based off of what happened this season, I think it's also fair to wonder, was this a bit of a ceiling? Could they take it to the next level now in the National Football League that's always evolving and always changing? And when you have success, people scheme differently for you. The Titans certainly saw that this year. Could Mike Mularkey and his staff adjust and take them to the next level? It's a fair question, and I think it was a question that John Robinson posed, and Mularkey didn't like. And he dug his feet in and basically said, I'm not changing. This is who I am. This is who our staff is. I believe in it, and look at what we've done. If that's not enough for you, too bad. And he essentially dug his own grave with that, because John Robinson's now the guy calling the shots, and he has this different vision for the team. We'll see exactly how that plays out under Mike Vrabel, but it is clear that Vrabel is open to that. He still wants to be run first. He still wants to be physical. He's still going to play basically 3-4 on defense, but they'll give a bunch of different looks in there as well. But he understands that you can't be one thing in the NFL. You can't have no plan B. You have to be ready to evolve and adapt. And that's what Mike Vrabel is ready to do here with the Titans. And that's why I think John Robinson feels like at the end of the day, he's got his guy. It's not that he wasn't fond of Mike Mularkey, the man, or doesn't think he did a good job through the first 2 years to get the Titans from, again, 2-14 and 3-13 to 9-7 and 9-7. But as he looked forward and what the next step needed to be in the direction of this Titans franchise, he couldn't see an agreement between his own vision and Mike Mularkey's. And so he made a change. And now there's definitely agreement, at least in the onset, with John Robinson and Mike Vrabel. And that's something to be excited about. All right, we've got to take another break. We will get back. More of your phone calls after this. 737-7767, the number. We'll be back right after this.